it was like Little House on the Prairie. We were all kind of freaked out by it. That doesn't normally happen. Did you lose any power?
Okay, you guys are ready. You can go.
We did just a little bit. Just a little bit. We'll continue. All right, listen here, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in to Street Therapy KC, located here in Kansas City, Missouri. Today's date is, man, what is it, the 30th?
Yes, the 30th.
Yeah. Thank you, March. She's on it. March the 30th. And the weather's pretty good here. We were just having a discussion about weather. So without further ado, I have a special guest on the show. First time on Street Therapy on KUAW radio, but hopefully not a stranger in the future here. I'd like for her to introduce herself. But today's show, let me start there. Today's show, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about mental health, everything that deals with mental health and issues and things like that, that we can kind of learn from her, and hopefully we can definitely get into it and get some beautiful information. So without further ado, I'd like for you to introduce yourself if you would.
Hello, my name is Darcy Roan, and I'm a mental health consultant. I'm in the Portland, Oregon area, suburb, and I have been dealing personally with bipolar disorder since I was about 18 years old. Also, PTSD, anxiety, and narcissistic abuse. So there's kind of a mixed bag of stuff that I am familiar with and kind of have my expertise in. And so I guess starting today, it's perfect timing because today is World Bipolar Day. So congratulations to any of you bipolar people who are here listening, watching. Congratulations, because I know how hard it is to work through all of that. And yeah, just happy to be celebrating that with my people. Yeah, so that's why I'm wearing green with mental health. Little nod to the Mental Health Awareness Day.
Yeah. I turned around and looked for something green. I said, well, I'm wearing red. There's nothing green behind me. Well, I guess our logo is green. But that's wonderful. So for those who don't really understand, because we've maybe heard the word bipolar and things like that, what exactly is bipolar?
Okay, so it is a mood disorder, sort of like depression. It is a disorder that is sort of characterized by having swings from one extreme end to the other. So you can be manic, which is, you're talking a mile a minute, you're so enthusiastic about everything, or else you're incredibly anxious about everything, but you really are moving too fast. You might not be sleeping, you might not be eating, or people start to notice that you're not behaving like you normally would. So that's the manic side of things. And that can last, depending on whether you're bipolar 1 or 2, it can last months. It can last a day. You can kind of rapidly cycle through these moods. The other end of bipolar disorder is the depression, and it can completely take you out. I mean, it can be the kind of depression that means you're not leaving the house, your bed, you're not going to work, you can't take care of anything. You can't even take care of yourself. And so it's really highly recommended that you go and get some medication for it, to even out your moods, to sort of help you make sure that you are on a more even keel. I didn't learn this until recently, but you can actually sustain brain damage when you are highly manic. It can burn your brain cells. I had no idea. So it's just, it can have such lasting damage, not only mentally, but even physically, unless you kind of get it taken care of. It's very hard to treat because you think that you are the God above everyone. You're smarter than everyone. You're funnier. You're the muse of the world. This is like, it's something that's very hard to take seriously when you're in the time of your life often.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one to treat.
Is it kind of like, it sounds like you kind of close the whole world out. It's kind of about you, and you're kind of working through it.
Yeah.
And you're shutting
Absolutely. You're shutting out the people who are saying, I'm worried about you. I think you're moving a little too fast. You're not acting like yourself. You do not want to hear that. So often people who are manic will just crash and burn, which leads to the depression. And that's when they get the help.
that the person is that the more severe, and if treated mental health issue, as they talked about Kanye West.
Yeah.
And that's something that he's actually talked about having. And I think when he said
difficult life if you're trying to maintain relationships with your family and the people that love you, because a lot of people just don't get it,
Yeah, and then trying to create a balance. You're trying to create a balance with your outside life, but having an issue with balancing yourself, and definitely by him being creative, that's something that he, that's how he eats.
Yeah.
That's how he makes his living. And if he's not away from him, then granted he's got a legacy of music, but he's a fashion icon.
Yes, absolutely. And this is, and you don't want to just take that away from people because, okay, they went through a period of time when they didn't behave like themselves. And it's very much for a lot of people, it's not just that you're not behaving like yourself. You hit a level of psychosis a lot when you're manic, if you're full blown manic. And it's just, again, a total departure from reality. And you can't do anything about it until you've been just, doused with the drugs that are going to knock you out. But yeah, a lot of people can't stand to live that way either. However,
so I'm sorry. So psychosis, what is that?
It literally means a break from reality. And that might mean you're hallucinating, or you're convinced that someone is out to get you, or you're paranoid. A lot of the things that you might associate with schizophrenia. Yeah, and it's just the simplest term that I've been told is that you have an absolute break with reality, and that can last for a little small time, or that can last for good. So, you definitely want to be on meds if that's the case. And yeah, I experienced some of that with my bipolar, and I would be terrified to ever go off of the drugs because, my God, what if that happened again? So I'm in it for life, whether I want to be or not. So,
we said, oh Lord, here she goes. Let's go.
Yeah, it's I still think.
Are there triggers? I mean, is there triggers like, I'm just kind of being facetious, or loud balloon pops, or and I guess that's a phobia, but somebody yells at you, screams at you, or a car drives in front of you, honks their horn or something. Are there triggers that really makes a person go in?
Yeah, I mean, there can be. Certainly, I believe that was any kind of trauma, and it's trauma that's going to be personal to you, unless you're someone like a war veteran. Like, they absolutely will have PTSD, and hopefully just stays at PTSD, but it might often turn into something else like bipolar. So it just completely depends on the person. It's all very personable. Yeah, if you're a balloon pop, it might remind you of a gunshot and you're diving under the car. It just, or someone who's had sexual trauma. Just if you see someone that might remind you of the person that abused you, it's just, you're sent right back to that time again. And so I firmly believe that it's not just genetics that lead to this sort of thing. It's also, any trauma that you might experience in your life that can topple you, and it could be just,
it's almost like, I'm sorry, but it's almost like you're constantly reliving that event. And, as far as you think maybe you're gone past it, you and whatever reason something happens and it draws you right back to that moment.
Yes. And it's so unfortunate. And I've had so many years of therapy, thank God, and I'm so grateful for that. But yes, it'll take one email from a certain person and I will be just in orbit again, and it's rare that that I lose my cool too much anymore. But sometimes, yes, it's just more than I can take. But I do think that therapy helps with that so much, and along with all of the other things people recommend, like exercise really does help so much, even if it's the last thing you really want to go to. And just keeping in touch with people that are safe for you, people that you have fun with. And COVID's kind of really taken a hunk out of that, which is awful. But hopefully we'll get vaccinated soon and move past that.
Yeah.
But
So what's a safe person? Is that maybe a person that you do you mean a person that you confide in? It could be a friend, it could be a family member.
yes.
It could be an animal, I guess, right? Or no?
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
I think pets are like not the most discussed little helpers, but they are the best little so great. So pets, 100%. I would say that a safe person for me is a person who has never betrayed you, someone has always shown up when you're at your worst, someone really does want the best for you.
Absolutely.
And like in therapy, the people that aren't safe for you are the ones that leave you feeling agitated, or you're worried that you have to walk on eggshells around them. And unfortunately, that's not the support people aren't always who you think they might be. It's not always your family. Sometimes the family is an unsafe place, or there are unsafe people in the family. So it's important to make sure that you make your friends your family in that case. So just, pay attention to how people leave you feeling. And if you're looking to someone for support, if it's not there, then you want to consider whether you want to keep that person with you in your life. Yeah. So fair weather friends.
Fair weather friends, yeah.
Yeah.
Come and go like the wind, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's not a true friend. So when we're dealing with that, when you fully diagnose someone, or when they fully find out, what are some of the things that we can look for in a person? What are some of the traits that we can look for in a person where you think, well, okay, they did this, let me kind of watch and see if they do this, and this, and this, then okay, maybe we need to really start looking at that.
Yeah, if you are in a situation and you see your friend or your loved one doing something that is utterly out of character for them, keep an eye on that. If they're doing, like, if you find out suddenly that they're sleeping all the time, they're not eating at all, or the reverse, they're not sleeping at all and they are not eating at all, those are big kind of signs. If they lose interest in stuff, like if there are things that you and this person used to go and do together a lot, and it was really fun for both of you, and this person is no longer interested, just those are kind of some of the red flags, and just complete loss of interest in things that they used to love to do. So I don't know, I have my eye on so many people right now.
It sounds like they're kind of just, at that point, they're kind of just going in within themselves. They're really kind of cutting off all the outside interaction and really kind of honing in, and being alone with their thoughts. And that could be a dangerous place depending on what their thoughts are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know I'm constantly preaching therapy, but if that's happening, if you can't get out of sort of the circular thinking, and you're anxious, and you can't shut your thoughts down, and you've tried meditation, you've tried exercise, and it's not happening, always please seek out help before it gets to be where you're spiraling. And so the downhill slope when you're mentally ill or headed toward it can go downhill so quickly. And so it's something that you want to make sure you take care of way sooner than later. And if you're the friend or support person for these people, just be like, I will make the call for you to go and get the appointment. I will go with you to the appointment, just whatever you need. Because sometimes when you're getting to that depressed state, or whatever state it is that is not okay for you, sometimes you have to make a lot of calls because all of the specialists are really just consumed with clients right now. It's such an epidemic. People are so sick that a lot of people can't take on new clients. Whereas, if you can't make 100 phone calls, well, your friend can. Your friend can get you an appointment.
Yeah. So when we say the word mental health, break that down if you would.
Basic mental health is that hopeful state that we would all like to be in. We're balanced. You don't have to be the happiest person in the world, but you need to not be terribly easily rattled by things. You're not angry all the time. You're not frazzled all the time. You're able to kind of let things come and go and keep an even keel about things without getting too ruffled too easily. And so I think it's a hard thing to get to that state of, the mental health that you want. But as long as you're checking in with the people that you care about, as long as you've got your support team around you and you've got, tools to try to take care of yourself when you're not feeling great, then you should hopefully be okay. But you want to just keep tabs on it always. And you can go in and change meds if your meds aren't working well. You can change therapists if your therapist isn't a great fit. You don't have to stick with the first thing anyone tells you to do in order to tweak things to make it good for you.
Yeah, I think that's important. You said something a little bit about PTSD and our veterans. I know a guy that goes to the VA and helps out with the veterans and things like that. I think it's tough, the situation that they're in. And I think it's in many cases, I think it's bad, because a lot of our veterans come back and they are, in horrible shape, and oftentimes they get treated horribly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And they're still dealing with that PTSD, but also having to transition into regular life, but not given the proper treatment that they need. And PTSD, what exactly is PTSD for those?
So that's post-traumatic stress disorder. And so from the sense of someone who's been off to war, obviously this is a horrifying state to be in. And once they come home, they may be out of it. They may be in a safe environment, but they can be jogged right back to that situation quickly and easily. You can't that doesn't just siphon out of your system because you stepped out of a war environment. And you need to be able to really process things in a very safe space, work with the post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, I would say my own experience of PTSD is that just a little thing that would not bother anyone else will send you into perhaps a total panic attack, and you feel like you're going to die. And not only do you think you're going to die, you kind of want to, so it will be over with. Like, it's just, you can't breathe, your heart's beating a million miles a minute, you don't even really feel like you're in your body. It's just very strange. But it's with PTSD, that can happen all the time. It's not just that it happens once a month. This could happen literally all day, every day, that you're feeling this way. So it's so hard to sustain because it doesn't feel like there's any light at the end of the tunnel. There's one really great treatment for it, which is very odd, but it's called EMDR, eye movement desensitization. I always forget what the R is. But anyway, people take a wand with a light on the end of it, your therapist does, and asks you to think of the most stressful event that you've been a party to, and on a scale of 1 to 10, rate it. And then they move the wand back and forth, and you watch the light, and something about your eyes moving back and forth really kind of soothes you. And it's one of the only proven therapies to have any kind of result for people with PTSD. So it's great that there is that. And so it's something, if you do have PTSD, you want to make sure that you go and find a therapist who is licensed to do that. So
who knows what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just totally it is totally bizarre. And the first time I did it, I was like, why are you wasting my time? But I feel better. It works.
It's like it's almost like you're being hypnotized, by the light. It takes your focus off of whatever the issue is and really focuses on that little bit of light right there.
Yeah.
It worked. It worked. Yeah, it worked. So as far as, and I'll shift gears just a little bit. We know that now we've been in COVID. We've had to social distance. We've had to, wear a mask and cover our face. We can't touch and hug and can't be in gatherings. Even with, oftentimes say with our families, it has to be, short. But even with that, have you noticed a difference in a lot of these cases as far as depression and anxiety and things like that? What have you noticed?
I saw a statistic kind of pretty much toward the beginning of COVID, maybe a little bit into it, a few months into it, saying that 1 in 5 Americans were clinically depressed going into COVID, and now that statistic was 2 out of 5, and that just alarmed me. But like what I see personally, you know, I'm separated from my people just like everyone else, but I watch my daughter who's 16, and she's always, you know, on some group chat with somebody, whatever you want to call it, FaceTiming, and I just can't believe the things they say. It's just they're so anxious. They're not sleeping. They're so depressed, and, you know, they don't feel like their parents can understand it. And they go to the therapist, but they feel that they can't really tell the therapist what's really going on for whatever reason. It's just, that has been alarming to me. And I understand that sort of cases of depression in kids are astronomical right now. So, I mean, my own daughter has a therapist, and I think I've recommended her to at least 5 other people just since COVID. So,
Wow.
and thank God she's taking new clients because she's so great. But,
and how old is your daughter, if you don't mind me asking?
No. How does she feel? Oh, thank you. She comes in and out of feeling okay. She's, you know, comes up with some sadness like her friends, but I'm so grateful that her friend group, I just love them. Thank God she doesn't have like this troubling friend crowd, and she's got a really nice boyfriend that I adore, and he comes from such a nice family. So we're really lucky on that front. But they're very open with each other about having a hard time. And they all started here in Oregon. They went back to school for 3 days a week now. It's only our 2nd week with that, but they're all so much happier, you know, and it makes me, you know, it makes me very nervous that they're getting exposed to whatever, but they're so much happier. It's unbelievable, the difference.
Yeah. So how old is your daughter?
She just turned 16, and, you know, she's, as my child, we talk everything to death in terms of depression. she gets an earload of it no matter what. So she'll like use psychological terms with her friends. I'm like, oh my God, she was listening to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like me and my son there. He said something, and he said, well, Dad, I told him that. I said, you said that? He said, yeah. He said, I was listening. He's 19. He said, yeah, I was listening. Like, man, I thought I was pulling teeth to try to pull your ears off your head to get you to listen to me. He said, no, I heard you. So, yeah.
They are.
They listen. They listen. They listen. Yeah. Our little sponge. Yeah. They listen, and oftentimes, and I think that's really why we have to be so careful what we say around them, because they do hear it. You know, our 3 youngest are 4, 6, and 10. You know, so they're constantly hearing every single thing, you know, and watching and learning, and, you know, just everything. I have to tell my wife, we just have to really be careful, you know, what we do and say around them. Granted, we don't do anything crazy or silly, but yet and still, you know, still have to watch what we do. Hey, I noticed on my screensaver it says Saturday, March 27th at 2:15. That is not correct, everybody. Just that is not correct.
It's a time traveling show.
It is a time traveling show. Yeah, I mean, we're in virtual reality right now. So yeah. But I think that's important, because it really is. It really is important to pay attention. And I think, you know, like you said earlier, you said all you have to do is really just pay attention, because if they're acting out, and you notice it, then there's something that you can catch. And if you catch it earlier, you catch it earlier, and you detect it earlier, then you can treat it earlier before it does get to, you know, manic depression, or rather, you know, going deeper and deeper, and to the point where it's really going to have to take some work.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So sooner rather than later is the key, for sure.
Yeah. So I watched the show the other day. It was called it was on Netflix. It was called The Social Dilemma. I don't know if you've heard of that show.
I have.
But, you know, yeah, but I watched it, and there was a scene where a little girl had posted a picture, and she was waiting to see how many people liked her picture. She was, you know, she saw a few likes, and there was a couple of likes and a couple of hearts and things, but there was one person that commented on how big her ears were.
Huh.
And out of all the pictures that, you know, everybody with heart said, "Oh, you look so beautiful, you look so good, you're pretty." That one post about her ears made her really focus in on her ears. And it kind of, yeah, it showed the progression of her, you know, standing in front of the mirror, you know, messing with her ears. I said, wow, that one thing threw her off.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's like 100 people could comment on your work performance and one was negative, everything else was glowing, but you only hear the negative one comment. Awful.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah. I don't know if maybe you know the answer to this, but why do we why is it so easy to focus on the bad, the negative? Why does it define us so when we have so much to look at, so beautiful and things like that, but the one thing that we shouldn't even care about is just there?
So astronomical. You know, such a good question, and I can't claim to have any brilliant answer, but I think that we're not trained to look at positive mindset as much as like, okay, let me look at what I could fix and change to make it better. It's more like, you know, let us dwell on that as opposed to really accepting how wonderful we truly are. And, you know, so it's so much easier said than done. And I'm not sure if it's like that in other cultures or if that's an American thing. But it's very sad, you know, when I see, again, I keep on coming back to this, but my daughter and her friends are posting on social media and just looking at these pictures of themselves. And I'm like, you have no idea how lucky you are that you're that cute. You got the great outfit, whatever. And all they can do is complain about themselves. And it's sad, you know. It's frustrating.
It is. I have a friend of mine. She's a model, and she actually has a modeling agency. And what she does is she takes a lot of young girls and guys, but she takes a lot of young girls and she shows them their inner beauty, you know, and she has the model show and things like that. And she actually shows them where, you know, beauty starts on the inside. And she affirms it, and they get out on, you know, they're on the catwalk and they're walking down, and she and her team, they affirm that you know, beauty starts within. You know, you have to feel beautiful because you are beautiful. Even if you have some things that you don't quite like about yourself, it's still beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I find it so interesting. You know, I'm at an age now where my friends and I are looking back at, high school photos. And we're just like, God, how could we have been? Isn't it sad that we were so here and we were nice girls, you know, like why didn't we appreciate ourselves back then? It's, you know, I don't want anyone to get to this point in life and feel that way about themselves. But no, I totally agree. Like the only people that I still want to be friends with are the ones that are, you know, fun and great and lovely. And they're going to show up for you if you go through a bad time. And it's not always the ones that were the pretty popular kids that end up being that.
Absolutely. So when we talk about, you know, the bipolar and mental health, I know it can affect everybody at certain levels, but is there a certain, because, you know, a lot of times you see people that are artists or artistic, you know, or, you know, just free flowing and things like that. I want to say a specific person or a specific category or group, but I mean, I'm sure it affects everybody at any level, at any time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's such a crapshoot, unfortunately. Like literally this can happen to anyone. And it's not because of some wrongdoing on your part. Could be that it was a genetic thing for you. Could be that you had some trauma in some category that really sort of tipped you over the edge a little bit. But the good news is you can deal with it. You can go and, you know, take care of it. You can get the right kind of help. You might have to educate people on how to help you. The people that love you, you might need to kind of say, okay, don't disappear when I'm having a hard time. You need to check in with me, even if I'm not returning phone calls. I need to know that you're there. It's just like with any other illness. If you have cancer or diabetes, people make sure you have what you need. But when it's mental illness, sometimes people just kind of take a hike, and it's the last thing that you want to have happen to you at that point. So that's the thing that I'm kind of trying to push. Just be there. It doesn't matter how you're there. Just check in, you know, and make sure your loved ones are okay and do it consistently.
Well, and I think because mental illness is maybe because, well, I guess with cancer and things like that, you can't see, but for the most part, mental health, it starts in the brain, so you in the mind, so you really can't know, you really can't see it. And so it's kind of a lot harder to take it serious when a person says, I really don't feel like myself today. You say, well, just take a few Tylenol and you'll be okay. But no, it's something like, I really feel like something's going on.
Yeah. And so you have to just be, the last thing you want to do is try to educate people about how you're feeling when it's like, oh, just go Google it, you Google it and understand how to take care of me. But you just sometimes do still in this day and age have to explain, yes, that it's a hidden disease. It's happening in your head, but it means that I can't do the things that I used to do. I'm not even close to that. And I'm in a scary, scary mind state. So I need to know that you're next to me and that you're with me, whether that means a quick phone call, a hug, whatever it's going to be, but please just show up in my life so that I know people care. That's usually.
So at one point, I know you talked about, just exercise and, meditation, and I would say maybe prayer, and things like that. At what point do you say, well, okay, this is serious, and then you begin to look at, medicate? I'm assuming that medication isn't the first thing that they go to, because there's got to be steps and there's got to be stages and steps and things like that, to consider.
Sorry about this. My dog is having a fit. Go ahead. We'll stop. I'm sorry. So I missed the last part of what you said there.
No, you're good. No, I said there's got to be steps and procedures and things to consider, as opposed to I don't think medication or medicating will be the first step, but there are certain things and certain traits that you will see, and obviously with going to a trained therapist to properly diagnose you before you do consider medicine and things like that.
Yeah, I think that if you are at a state where your thoughts are kind of getting away from you and the normal things you would do to soothe yourself are not bringing you down to a normal level, and that's sustained, that you can't take care of that yourself by doing things like, say, taking a walk or listening to music that calms you or taking a bath. Like, there are many things that you can do to self-soothe. And if that works, awesome, so great. But if you're going through a sustained period of time where you're not able to talk yourself down or bring yourself down from the anxiety or stress, then I think that's a good time to check in and see if you can get someone to talk to that's a professional. And they won't always say, okay, yes, we need you to be on medicine. That's not always the first thing. And another thing I want to say in terms of just when you're going to get help for yourself, if you do suspect that you need medicine, go to a psychiatrist first. Don't go to the therapist first. That's more of a long-term cure. Go to the psychiatrist because they're the ones that will prescribe the meds for you. And if they're overloaded, you can't get an appointment with a psychiatrist. Nurse practitioners can also prescribe and diagnose. And so often they're a little easier to get appointments with. And they often cost a little less if your insurance doesn't cover this. So I would go there first if you do suspect that you might need medication to help bring you down, even if it's just a short-term helping thing. And then the therapy you want to go to for longer-term health to sort of process what you're going through or things that you've gone through that have led you to this path that you're on. So in terms of
how helpful is therapy?
I can't say enough about it, but I will say that unless you are pretty much in love with your therapist, it's almost like dating. You don't want to keep going back to the same person that you're not ever going to have a special feeling for. Not that you're going to literally like fall in love with your therapist, but
so listen, I've got a date with my therapist. I can't be late.
Yeah, like in my situation, I've been through a number of them. I knew immediately in my top 3 therapists, I knew within 15 minutes that they were the ones. And so you kind of, it's like, getting a new home. You're either in love with it or you're not. So never feel guilty about swapping to someone else. And that's not to say you should cancel appointments with your current therapist. Have that support while you're looking for someone else that might be a better fit for you. But yeah, you want to make sure you get someone who really moves you and speaks to you. I still quote my first favorite therapist pretty much on a daily basis, and so does my daughter. So it's great. Yeah, it helps you so much. And they'll see things in you that you may not have ever considered in your entire life. And it's just like, wait, how does she know that? So yeah, I think it's incredibly helpful. And I think it's helpful in a marital situation as well. Again, that's somewhere where you really want to find someone that speaks to you or is going to be behind both of you. But I'm a poster child for therapy. I think it's the greatest thing ever. I wish it was more accessible.
What are some of the things that maybe you can share that maybe you've learned through therapy that's really helpful?
One of the sayings that always runs through my head, okay, I'm trying to put this delicately. This was through marital therapy. I had a very difficult partner, and he would try all kinds of stuff in therapy, and she would say, "Nobody gets to be the a-hole," just like. And I would be like, "Oh my God, I love you. I'm following you home," and and I say that every day. But also things like I had another therapist who would say that, if you are going around and scurrying around and trying to fix things that are absolutely not able to be fixed, then it's like you're arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The Titanic is going down. Doesn't matter if you're going around fixing the deck chairs. Just like, look at the bigger picture and understand that you need to kind of hang with it. But there are so many things. If you come from like a really negative, love this story. If you come from a really negative family dynamic, my therapist once told me about this psychological study. It was a family of monkeys in a cage. They had all lived in the cage their entire lives. Mama monkey gets pregnant. And when the baby is born, they finally open the hatch to the cage, and not one of the original monkey family members tries to get out, but the baby leaps up to the top of the cage to get out. And the monkey family that is dysfunctional and learned to be helpless screech and howl and bring the little monkey back into the cage. They can't let you escape if you are, the one who is able to escape. They don't like to let you have that. So anyway, those are a few of my favorites.
That's like the crabs in the barrel. You got the one that wants to get out, experience, and just get out and from among everybody. But then there's so many people that are pulling and tugging you back to come back down to whatever they have going on.
Yeah.
That's funny. You don't get to be the a-hole.
Oh my God. And you don't in any situation. You just don't get to.
No,
it's
about compromise. It's about compromise, and it's give and take, and even marital, and just even in life in general. Everything's not going to go your way.
No.
And have you figured that out?
Yeah, I have learned that.
Yeah, everything's not going to go away. I think, and a funny part about it is, I think that's what makes life interesting, is that we don't have all the answers, and is that we don't know everything. But it's also what makes life scary too, that we don't have all the answers and we don't know everything.
Right. The lack of control issue is just a tough one to swallow for sure.
We're still learning. So if I know you're not here in the Kansas City area, but if there's anyone that needs to maybe contact you and everything, is there a way that they can contact you?
100%. And I work with clients on a national level all the time. So that's totally fine. Doesn't matter where you are. My website is Roane Mental Health Consulting. Roane is spelled ROANE, Mental Health Consulting. I'm very active on LinkedIn, yes, but also Instagram. And so it's roane.mental.health.consulting there. So, but everything's on the website. All of my contact information is on my website.
Listen, everybody, this has been recorded, so if you need to go back through that again.
Sorry, I know, it's long. It's long.
A few dots in there.
Yeah. Many.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Listen, I really appreciate you coming on and accepting. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And I didn't know today was National Bipolar Day.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's ironic, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
But everything's in timing. I think everything I always tell my wife, I said nothing ever happens by accident. We think it's by accident, but it's already there.
Yeah, I agree.
We're just walking through it. You know, we're thinking, oh my goodness, look at that. No, it was already supposed to happen. You just came here and got to experience it.
Yeah.
So that is beautiful. Listen, I totally thank you, and I thank you for your time and your stories and your daughters and your family. I think that's beautiful. I thank you for your insight. I really do. I thank you for all that you do with dealing with counseling, depression and things like that. And I definitely wish you much success with your bipolar and even in that arena. And we talked about some other celebrities that deal with that stuff, but that's for another time. We'll get back to that. So, well, but thank you so much.
I appreciate it so much. It's been such a pleasure to meet you, and I thank you for giving me some time on your show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Well, Mr. Walker, you still with us? All right. All right. All right, everybody. Listen, you tune in to Street Therapy KC. This is your man, Chris Jackson. I've had Mrs. Dorsey Rohn on the show. She is definitely a mental health expert in the field. And reach out to her if there's something that maybe you think there's something that's a little off. Maybe you don't even think. But if you have a loved one that's concerned for a loved one, reach out to somebody, because you helping them might even save their life. You never know. And oftentimes, when we can't speak for ourselves, we need to have that, as you spoke about, we need to have that safe place, that safe friend to say, man, listen, I'm going to get you checked out. I don't care if you kick me. we're going to go, and I will go with you if you need me to have that support system. I think that's beautiful. Well, Ms. Dorsey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. And I'll reach back out again. You take care of yourself and each other.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, listen here, as I normally say here, God bless y'all, and we'll definitely, God say the same, we'll be back with you on next week, and we'll see how it goes. But God bless you. Mr. Walker, thank you, sir, once again. Mrs. Mildred, are you there? Okay, all right, on. Well, listen, I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all take care, and I'll see you next time. Oh, yeah, Mr. Walker. Yeah, absolutely. Take care.